It's clobbering time.
Welcome back to Screen Crush, I'm Ryan Airy. The Fantastic Four are finally in the MCU. Sort of. John Krasinski is our Mr. Fantastic, and that is a fan casting dream come true.
I think to be a part of the Marvel world would be amazing anyway, and the fact that people would even consider me for that level of a part would be amazing.
Which quickly turned into a nightmare after Wanda shredded Reed into spaghetti. But Marvel Studios is working on a Fantastic Four movie, so Krasinski will probably return as Mr. Fantastic very soon. And I assume that it's a package deal so Emily Blunt will join him as Sue Storm. We can only hope.
Are you prepared for the internet backlash if you guys don't get cast as
Well, I
Fantastic
don't know.
Four?
You're going to have to speak to Feige about it, right?
So, we have to talk about how the Fantastic Four will be introduced now that we met a version of Reed Richards from another universe. Multiverse of Madness gave us some hints on what we can expect from the Fantastic Four and how they're going to be introduced. And with so much happening with the multiverse, that's how the Fantastic Four could fit into the larger scale of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and probably play a key role in the years to come.
Don't worry, people, the Fantastic Four have arrived!
But to understand the MCU's Fantastic Four movie, first we have to take a closer look at the Mr. Fantastic that we got in Multiverse of Madness. Earth 838's Reed Richards is described as the smartest man alive, and that's what he is in the comics. And he also has his signature stretchy limbs. He used a teleportation device to make his grand entrance in the Illuminati chamber, a teleporter that kind of reminds me of the time-traveling portals the TVA uses. Also, Reed is probably the one who built the Ultron bots. He's the smartest man alive, so that's why in this universe, Ultron didn't turn into a murder bot, and instead is the peacekeeping AI he was meant to be. So this confirms that Reed is a hell of a lot smarter than Tony, at least he doesn't have the same emotional hangups.
Son of a bitch.
When Mordo introduces Reed as a member of the Fantastic Four, Steven jokingly asks, "Didn't you guys chart in the 60s? This joke is a wink to fans because the Fantastic Four made their comics debut in 1961. But this remark is also in reference to a fan theory that garnered a lot of steam recently. This theory is that the Fantastic Four will actually come from the 1960s, with the speculation that they were stuck somewhere in space or the quantum realm or some other place for the last 60 years.
The gravity on that planet will slow our clock compared to Earth's drastically.
Every hour we spend on that planet will be 7 years back on Earth.
And this is all mostly based on the ideas of Peyton Reed, who was developing a Fantastic Four movie in the early 2000s. Reed, by the way, is the director of the Ant-Man movies. His dream project was a Fantastic Four movie that was set in the 60s. He pitched it, got turned down, and instead we got this.
Perfect. Gotta say, it's fantastic.
So I guess you could speculate that Steven's remark about the 60s is in reference to that. Well, it's that, or it's just a clever Easter egg to the Fantastic Four music band, whose song, "The Whole World is a Stage," made it to the Billboard charts in the 1960s. And yes, that is a real thing.
It's 1978.
No, Billy, while Feel So Good may have charted in 1978, the album was released in December of 1977.
And remember, Steven is a music aficionado, so I guess it's best to not put too much stock in his 1960s remark.
You guys look like an 80s rock band.
The 1960s direction sounds like it could be interesting because it's a previously unexplored era of the MCU, and maybe it could play into the idea that the Fantastic Four are Marvel's first family. So in the MCU, they will be the first superhero team, predating the Avengers. But I gotta level with you, that's not what I want to see them do in the MCU. Marvel already has several out-of-time characters. There's Steve Rogers, Bucky, Janet Van Dyne, and Carol Danvers, so it's not such of a fresh take anymore. Honestly, the whole 60s thing just feels too much like an unnecessary gimmick.
I told him about Trouble Man. He wrote it in that book. Did you hear it? What'd you think?
I like 40s music, so...
Also, we have already seen that era in X-Men First Class. So yes, I get it, there is something really compelling about doing a time period movie with the Fantastic Four. But I also think fans gravitated toward this idea for the same reasons why people kept fan casting John Krasinski and Emily Blunt for Reed and Sue. I think that some fans tend to latch a little too much onto these fan castings and theories.
That is fan casting, that, and no one has received a phone call. That is all, that's just people saying, wouldn't that be great? And that's it.
Look, I really love the Fantastic Four. There's just something about their stories that have always spoke to me. They're a family that's always on some kind of exciting adventure. The Fantastic Four is about that sense of discovery. Their stories are always about the future. Now, I don't mean the future as in time travel, but more about what's over the next horizon.
To explore strange new worlds to seek out new life and new civilizations, to boldly go where no one has gone before.
That's something that's absent from most superhero movies, that sense of discovery and exploration. I want to see this family travel to unique and mysterious places on Earth and on other exotic and colorful planets, other dimensions, and even other universes. That's what I see in my imagination when I think about Fantastic Four. Not a superhero blockbuster, but a science fiction adventure. That's because the Fantastic Four are more explorers than superheroes. Being part of the interconnected cinematic universe means that the Fantastic Four are so much more interesting if their story takes place after all the stuff that's happened in the MCU. They can now play in a far more exciting sandbox and explore stories in a more fun way.
Time to settle this once and for all. Is it 7 o'clock already?
I brought the chips. Let's play some cards, Avengers.
Now, we did a video where I pitched the plot of a whole Fantastic Four movie, but this team is so much fun to think about. The possibilities for their MCU stories are endless. I can see Nick Fury asking Reed for help when he went into space with the Skrulls, and that's how the Fantastic Four end up in space. Or maybe SWORD or some other secret agency wants to chart the quantum realm, so they get the Fantastic Four to do it.
I've always wanted to venture here, ever since I discovered it.
Wait. Is this the negative zone? The place with the giant bugs?
Or it could probably just be Doctor Strange. He met an alternate version of Reed Richards, so it's a no-brainer that he'll seek out the 616 Reed. We actually discussed how that can play out in this video, where we explained how Strange will form his own Illuminati, with Mr. Fantastic being part of the team. But really, it should be Reed taking the initiative to explore by himself, dragging his family into a wild adventure that changes their lives forever. And maybe that's part of the driving force of the Fantastic Four movie. The way things have played out so far in the MCU opens the door perfectly for the Fantastic Four to take a very different approach with their heroics. Because most heroes save the world, but the Fantastic Four search for ways to make it better, to solve problems, and to build a better world.
Intelligence is not a privilege, it's a gift. And you use it for the good of mankind.
Reed Richards will see all the opportunities of the latest discoveries in the MCU, but he'll also worry about how easily nefarious forces can abuse and weaponize all these discoveries. Reed will try to warn the world of the dangers of space and the quantum realm, but no one's going to take him seriously.
You can be the smartest guy in the room, the most qualified, and no one cares. Unless you're flying around with a cape or shooting lasers from your hands, no one will even listen.
Reed isn't exactly arrogant, but he's a know-it-all type of guy, someone who believes that his intelligence means that he can solve any problem. The transformation of his family sits on Reed's conscience. It's a burden of guilt that now propels him forward to ensure that something like that never happens again.
He's never forgiven himself for causing the tragedy that turned Ben into the Thing.
That's why he will take the initiative to make his mark in the multiverse, to make sure that no other overzealous scientist or explorer repeats his own mistakes. Instead of abusing these new discoveries, they will use them to find ways to solve the world's problems, and hopefully not create a load of new problems while they do so. Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness opened the door wide open to other universes, and we made a few videos talking about the upcoming multiversal crisis and the war that will happen in the MCU. Steven is going to have his hands full dealing with the incursions, but the multiverse is a very big place, filled with endless possibilities, and that's how the Fantastic Four can end up exploring the multiverse. And since the MCU is leading to a big multiversal event, the Fantastic Four could be the heroes who lay the groundwork for that. They played a key role in 2015's Secret Wars in the comics, which was a huge event where the multiverse collided and worlds went to war with each other to save their universe from destruction.
There was a vast multiversal war. Countless unique timelines battled each other for supremacy.
And Secret Wars is shaping up to be the MCU's next big crossover event like Endgame. There's also the Interdimensional Council of Reeds from the comics, which is a multiversal alliance of Reed Richards from different universes.
Identity theft is not a joke, Jim. Millions of families suffer every year. Michael!
The Council of Reeds work together to solve the problems of their individual universes as well as the entire multiverse. That just goes to show how dedicated Reed Richards is to making things better. And I hope we see something like this in the MCU. I mean, when Steven met his other variants, most of them were either turned out dead or evil. Wanda even took over the body of her variant. Reed will show a different type of approach, seeking his variants in other universes, forming an alliance to solve incursions and preventing the collapse of reality. And that's somewhat similar to what we got in Loki. He Who Remains described an alliance between his variants that was eventually turned into a multiversal war.
Each variant fighting to preserve their universe and annihilate the others.
And He Who Remains worst variant is Kang the Conqueror, who is shaping up to be the MCU's next Thanos. And Kang's real name in the comics is Nathaniel Richards. Yes, that means he is a descendant of Reed Richards. And that's just another thing that puts the Fantastic Four at the center of the upcoming multiversal conflict. So as you can see, the Fantastic Four are very embedded in the multiverse. Now we've seen the core 4 members of the family, which is Reed, Sue, Johnny, and Ben. But one of the most powerful aspects of the stories like Secret Wars was the focus of the relationship of Reed and Sue with their children, Franklin and Valeria. These 2 kids are fantastic additions to the MCU. First, because they both have basically godlike powers, but also because their addition further enforces that family dynamic.
I don't have friends. I got family.
And don't even get me started on Dr. Doom. We all know that Doom is the arch nemesis of the Fantastic Four, but we need him to be done right. The incredible and complicated relationship between the Fantastic Four and Dr. Doom is one of the best in the comics. So if all of this is done right, the Fantastic Four could become the cornerstone of the MCU for years to come. But what do you think about all this? How do you want to see the Fantastic Four brought into the MCU? Let me know in the comments below or at me on Twitter. And if it's your first time here, please subscribe and smash that bell. For Screen Crush, I'm Ryan Airy.